The topic of this video is, do you really even need a giant cable rack mounted setup compared to just simply using a set of resistance bands and maybe some other resistance band accessories to essentially mimic and also even improve some of the very key foundational resistance training exercises? So I thought I'd give you guys some ideas and also share with you what I would believe are the top 10 resistance band exercises that are not only great exercises in their own right for targeting those specific muscles, also how they rival many expensive free weight setups and machines. And those of you guys that watch the channel know I am not a resistance band purist. I think there's a lot of exercises that I think are subpar and also, lack of a better term, just kind of cumbersome to even set up compared to other tools that do the job. And I'd always recommend, if you can, and if you like to your preference, pick up both, get some free weights and also some resistance bands. I thought I'd make this video for those of you guys that I think might be missing out on the benefits of resistance band training. Maybe if you don't have space or the budget for some of these big racks and expensive setups. Or finally, and my personal favorite, you just want to mix it up with some of the benefits of variable resistance alongside traditional free weight resistance. I'm featuring and rotating a bunch of resistance band accessories, of which I think I have some of the best I've featured on this channel, with also some savings. If you guys do want to save some money, help support me and the channel, I will link those all down below in the description box. But at the end of the day, the biggest thing you can do to help me out and show me that you appreciate this content is please give this video a like, subscribe if you have not done so already, share is certainly awesome, and certainly leave a comment down below on what you think are your personal favorite exercises, because as always, I'm just personally sharing my personal preferences here. I'll break these down loosely in categories, but to go without saying, you do not necessarily need all these different things. They just make life a little bit easier and sometimes a little bit safer. So I'm gonna start off with just some foot plate based exercises. I like this Harambe one. I think it's the best one, but it's crazy expensive. What I've done, totally do at your own risk, is I even use something like a cheap Nintendo Wii platform. I also have made my homemade Mac boards, which I think I also have a few left if you guys are interested in picking those up. My neighbor Mac makes them for me. It takes them about 4 hours to make each board. Point is, a lot of foot plates in the market. I've covered a lot of them. Drop a comment down below. I'm happy to give you guys some tips on some good foot plates that are out there. Getting into this first exercise, I want to emphasize that not only am I showing you good resistance band exercises, I'm also showing you some of the best exercises per that body part. And this one right here is probably my most favorite exercise for this body part, and that is a bicep curl with a foot plate and a barbell. If you guys watch the channel, you've probably seen many shots of me doing that, and that is not by accident. It's because that is my favorite bicep curl exercise of all the things I have in the gym. Now, of course, I will grab some dumbbells, and some of it might be out of habit instead of going ahead and using a cable, because it might be somewhat comparable. And I've even used this Beyond Power Vultra for some exercises because it's very similar. It's just a great exercise because I feel like it totally targets your biceps in a sense that you're so dialed in and locked in the machine that I generally find a smaller foot plate with also a smaller barbell works out, although wider ones also work out. And of course, you can use things like my collar hooks if you want to throw it on any kind of wider, say thicker barbell, something like that might work out for you. But just a great exercise in the sense that you have this targeted tension that's always kind of pulling you down, that I feel like you really just get that total engagement out of the muscle. And that's really kind of prevalent in most of these exercises you're gonna see here. But next one, using a foot plate, and I should have said the one prior to that, you don't necessarily need a foot plate, but it also makes it just makes life more easier and sometimes also minimizes some risk, is gonna be an overhead press. You could use a single hand. I've shown various videos on just using bands alone. So that should go without saying all these exercises, but it feels much better with a barbell. You feel more connected to the actual exercise, as I keep saying. But I find for a lot of people that even have kind of bad shoulders, what's great about resistance band, variable resistance training in general, is that the exercise gets the hardest when you're at your strongest. So if you got kind of vulnerable or weak shoulders, for a lot of people, they've told me this is really one of the only shoulder exercises they can actually do that's over the top. And personally, might just be out of habit again, I have found that I've actually taken a step back from doing traditional barbell lifts with free weight and actually opted for resistance band over the head presses 9 times out of 10 when it comes to that exercise. Although lately I've also been using these lever arms too. Next exercise that goes alongside with that, in recent years you might have seen a lot of people, if they don't want to do overhead presses, they just stick to lateral raises and then get the rest of the shoulder with various pressing and pulling exercises. While I do love lateral raises with dumbbells, and maybe I'll get in this to the end of why I might choose one versus another, but using bands with a foot plate, especially ones like this one has these kind of rollers on these side corners, helps protect the band, but you certainly could use your foot, is an excellent exercise because, again, depending on the position, however you want to put that band, I like to kind of drape it across my body. You have this constant tension from start to finish that, again, just feels like a great exercise. I go back and forth with using grips and not using grips. I've made videos to the point on each category there, but I know a lot of people prefer to use grips, and if you'd like more of that weight feeling in your hand, I got some good grip options here you guys are seeing in this video, one from VectorAthletics and one from Robus. Also, shameless plug, discount codes for those are down below as well. One just has a bigger opening, so it's easier to kind of get thicker bands in that. You'll see that throughout this video. Next one, I kind of had to think about a little bit because I kind of go back and forth with this. I do love doing anchored, and I'll show you this later, some anchored band stuff like pulls and lat pull downs. That does feel good, but I personally do not prefer working against weight. Like I'm always kind of getting pulled a certain direction. So I do like doing a bent over row with a foot plate. I just feel like if you can pull it off with flexibility and you got a good back to kind of get into the start position and you can get horizontal enough, it is really a great exercise, again, because the band is just kind of pulling you right into that exercise. Versus if I was standing up, I got to kind of fight and heave and fight against that band. So if you can pull it off, and nowadays also what's great is that there's different band dimensions. So if you're smaller or taller and you want various dimensions and lengths, you can do that with various band dimensions from companies like Clench Fitness, has a 34 and then 41 inch. Of course, Serious Steel also has tons of different dimensions on their website as well to make this exercise all the more personalized for your needs. Staying on the foot plate is something that I think is great. I just have personally don't do it because I kind of dread it, but it is actually a great exercise, and a solution to get over the dread of the exercise is just simply to utilize a lighter band. So I'm talking about a single leg lunge. You could hold these in your hand to also do it this way, but with this VectorAthletics squat belt, it works out really well. So personal preference, and actually I kind of sell myself a lot of times when I'm doing this video. As I drop that weight down, I also went with this board, a little lengthwise for some things. Another option you can do depending on your foot plate. You can dial out that tension. I just prefer to actually make it less grueling, and I think more of a kind of dialed in, more fluid, comfortable response, but still can make it hard, is just use a lighter band. I've also found, and you can do it sometimes, and I go back and forth with how much I like it, is a squat. You can adjust the band length to get more tension, but I have found that just on that even halfway to midsection to top portion, great exercise to kind of chain together. So I would say these two exercises, the banded lunge with a foot plate and also a squat, both of which though I would say having this belt is key. And that is a reason, kind of going on to the next one, I don't recommend generally for a lot of people the barbell squat, and also sometimes the deadlift. I'm going to show the deadlift here as kind of my next exercise, but I have found for a lot of people they underestimate that tension that is given off with the foot plate. So I can't tell you how many people I've warned about who have bad backs who pick up resistance band training for their back, and they hurt it again with doing heavy band weighted deadlifts. There's a lot of compression, especially at the top, and people can kind of end up aggravating their backs. So what I'm saying with this one, why I like the deadlift, really have a focused glute exercise. I love training my glutes, and I always believe in just hip hinging in general. This particular one really dials in that tension. If you keep a nice fluid tempo, a moderate band tension, you will feel that pump and just that constant stress on your glutes if you keep that really dialed in and focus on less of a back extension, putting the stress on that lower back. You'll feel a little bit, but not as much. So focus on the glutes, go lighter, great glute exercise. For one reason or another, if you do not want to get a functional trainer or some sort of a cable stack machine, and you're just for limited space or whatever, what I like about bands is there are a lot of great options to take advantage of that top-down pull action. So if you got some sort of a top anchor, that can work. If you got a basic pull-up bar, I even show on my super bench from Ironmaster, they got a pull-up bar attachment. You can do some of these exercises. Some of my favorites on here, which I'd argue, and I meant to make a whole separate video on this, is really the assisted pull-up. So you can do this, of course, on a weight stack. If you guys got this, drape a band across lengthwise, and you can adjust yourself that way. That's probably safer versus kind of stepping on the band so it doesn't fly and hit you, which that has happened to me a couple times. So once it happens, you're very mindful of it not happening again. But that is a great exercise that I would say is very comparable to, say, if you do not have a lat pull down. In fact, I'd probably argue if I were to pick which one would be better, I would pick that one because it's more of a closed chain exercise versus an open chain exercise of a lat pull down. And what that means is that whatever the moving limb is, this case our arm, it's working against this fixed object, being that pull-up bar, and it's just more engaging to your whole entire body to kind of brace itself and work as a unit to make that pull. So whether you want to go wide grip or closed grip, neutral grip, supinated grip, whatever, you can make that happen depending on the pull-up bar, and then just dial the tension, increase or decrease it based on the band height. So that is one of my favorite top resistance band exercises that is very underrated, and sometimes I opt for that one versus even doing some sort of a cable lat pull down. There are some good resistance band exercises that I think win out over dumbbells, because dumbbells you're always working against gravity and you lose some of that constant tension that you otherwise get with bands. What I think is the best tricep exercise is just anchoring something to the top, various grip positions, all sorts of length tensions depending on the resistance you want. I recommend to kind of go on a lighter band versus heavier for a number of reasons, but you could go heavier with a single loop. But point is, this is just a great tricep exercise, keeps like a lot of constant tension on that tricep. You get a nice flexion, nice extension, and it's just one of those great exercises. Whenever I don't do it and I come back to it, lights up my triceps all over again. Even though I said 10, I'm gonna kind of cheat on this one and maybe sneak another one in here because I couldn't decide. And 10 just sounds better on YouTube. But one is just a top-down ab crunch. Great exercise if you can pull it off. Anything top-down, you gotta be careful. Check the band integrity, get a good quality band. But it is ranked to the top-down, so you gotta be careful it doesn't snap you in the head. But I love ab crunches, say with a cable, crunching down. With bands, it works out really good. So that is also an option you guys could potentially pull off if you wanna get a nice weighted abdominal exercise from top to bottom. It's one of my personal favorites. And then one I kind of snuck in here is I love just cable rotations. Not just for your abdominals, also the obliques. And with the resistance band, even though I said I don't like fighting against something that's anchored to something that is kind of more pulling you horizontally, it is one of the favorite exercises that I often will anchor some bands to on a rack and just do some moderate to somewhat heavy tension. And then last but certainly not least is one I discovered recently, made a whole video about it. I used to do this over the back thing with the barbell and a chest press. You can kind of put yourself upright, and you also can actually do this flat if you want to. I just like sitting upright if you can. It literally feels like you're in some sort of a chest machine you would find in a gym. Preferably you're gonna want a wider barbell. You're gonna see me using this heavy duty barbell, and I've also even used the longer X3 barbell, but something that is longer is gonna be more preferable to get more of a stretch. And sometimes I often opt for just a 41-inch band, but even a 37-inch band will work out for something like this. Just great tension, it's a great finisher, it's a great pre-exhaust set to something else. So that is one of my top chest exercises that I still do in my little garage gym space that I come back to and put it in the rotation for sure. Of course, there are many other resistance band exercises. There's ways to rig bands to even to your lever arms. I've shown that before. All sorts of creative ways to take advantage of variable resistance. I just wanted to show you guys my personal favorites. Please drop your comments down below on what you find are some of the best in-class exercises with bands, and also beat out some of the traditional free weights and machines. And some people might be asking, Mike, why even bothering with doing free weights and dumbbells if these are so great? I personally just find it's good to mix up the stimulus, and at the end of the day, to make this most short answer, not to get super scientific, because I don't think it's necessary with this argument. I just also prefer picking up the weight. I love the tension of just basic weight of being heavy and then getting easier as you're kind of going through a range of motion. All those reasons are why I like to kind of mix the two for this hybrid resistance approach that, of course, I like to promote on this channel. Any questions, comments, feedback, again, please like, share, subscribe if you found this video all helpful, and I will see you guys on the next one.